está esperando. Porque Colombia sin ti no es Colombia. A viajar con responsabilidad, yo voy.
I remember when I lost my mind. There was something so pleasant about that place. Even your emotions have an echo in so much space. And when you're out there without care, yeah, I was out of touch. But it wasn't because I didn't know enough. I just knew too much.
Un saludo muy especial a todos los miembros de Asobares, a los restaurantes, a los bares, a los gastrobares, pero particularmente a sus trabajadores, a los empleados, a los empresarios que durante este periodo de tiempo de la pandemia fueron los que lideraron un sector que se vio muy afectado. Fueron los primeros en cerrar, cumpliendo con toda su responsabilidad, y han sido de los últimos en activarse. Agradecemos la voluntad y el trabajo que han tenido para aplicar todos los protocolos de bioseguridad, para proponer más de 13 proyectos piloto que hoy inician la reactivación de este sector. A todos ellos un reconocimiento y una invitación para que desde el Gobierno Nacional, trabajando conjuntamente y con los alcaldes, podamos lograr que este sector se reactive con mucha responsabilidad, aplicando los protocolos de bioseguridad y garantizando que todo vuelva a la normalidad dentro de este proceso de reactivación del empleo que quiere el presidente Duque. A todos ustedes muchas gracias, un reconocimiento especial.
Chao. Chao. Good morning.
Hola.
Good afternoon.
Good morning.
Hello, everyone. Hola. ¿Cómo están? Arrancamos ya.
Ya va, Luis Alejandro nos confirma, por favor. Luis Alejandro, hola. Hola, Caro, hola a todos. Muy buenos días, son las 11:14 de la mañana, unos minutos corrida la agenda de paneles, pero cómo no corrernos también con esa información que teníamos en ese último panel tan importante que venimos de analizar con el gobierno nacional, el viceministro de Turismo, Julián Guerrero, con los gobiernos locales, esos entes territoriales desde la gobernación de Caldas que nos acompañaba, o el alcalde de Barrancabermeja, también su visión tan importante sobre cómo van a recibir esa ley de turismo, y también el sector privado, en cabeza en ese panel de Juan Carlos Jaramillo del Tour Gastronómico de Medellín, impecablemente moderado por Carol Fajardo, la directora del Instituto Distrital de Turismo de Bogotá. Sin duda, continuamos y todo va enlazado, y uno de los grandes proyectos de reactivación, uno de los grandes beneficios también que se van a contemplar en esa ley de turismo que esperamos ya empiece a regir desde el 1 de enero, también a nivel tributario y todo eso, sin duda es la operación de los gastrobares, los bares, los restaurantes. Y qué mejor también que esa implementación se dé en el marco de esas ciudades 24 horas, de esos espacios abiertos al aire libre, también como parte de esa reactivación. Pues en este panel tenemos unos invitados internacionales con todas las credenciales, han asesorado diferentes gobiernos en el mundo, y parte de ese colectivo Vibe Lab hace parte, por ejemplo, Mirik Milán, una persona a quien le agradecemos inmensamente en el 2017 en la versión de Expobar de ese año, que nos acompañó junto con Andreina Seijas también, y nos dieron mucha línea, mucha guía sobre lo que iba a ser esa Bogotá productiva 24 horas. En ese momento, desde el Consejo, ayudamos a sacar ese primer proyecto de acuerdo. Hoy también, que hace parte de ese gran plan de desarrollo de la ciudad para los próximos 4 años, está contemplado. Lo ayudamos a incluir como tal ese proyecto de Bogotá productivo 24 horas, de la mano de la concejal Gloria Elsie Díaz, quien siempre ha apoyado al sector turismo y específicamente este tema de Bogotá 24 horas. Entonces, me complace mucho presentar a Vibe Lab, y este panel lo va a moderar también. Ya nos acompañó ayer como panelista, hoy como moderadora, Carolina Durán, nuestra secretaria de Desarrollo Económico de Bogotá, a quien le doy un cordial saludo. Bienvenida, Carolina.
Muy bienvenido a todos, y un saludo muy especial a Camilo y a nuestros panelistas. Gracias por esta oportunidad aquí Como dice, la colaboración es lo que nos va a sacar adelante de la crisis. Justo hoy estoy a mi lado, está Ricardo Pau haciendo una colaboración en Punta Aranda para todo el tema del distrito de moda. Y estamos pues saliendo en este momento de inaugurar un espacio para venta de los informales y de un distrito que estamos llamando Distrito de Moda 4.0. Así que hoy me place mucho estar en esta conversación con ustedes para también hablar cómo colaborativamente podemos llegar a reactivar un sector tan importante como es el de la noche, la vida nocturna que tiene desde arte, cultura, baile y por supuesto todo lo que tiene que ver con bares y discotecas, por supuesto. Entonces, gracias, Camilo.
Gracias, Carolina. Greetings to Lutz, to Dr. Sifo, to Diane, which are part of Vibe Lab. We are very thankful with you guys for this collaboration, with this time, for your contributions during this panel. Will be moderator for Carolina. Carolina Duran, our Secretary of Economic Development. In the name of Asobaris, very welcome, you guys.
Thank you very much, Camilo, and thanks to everyone.
Okay, para todos.
Thank you, Camilo. So, greetings to everyone.
Thank you, Carolina. Para todos, Alejandra Pérez nos va a estar acompañando. Este panel se va a estar desarrollando en inglés, pero Alejandra, al final o durante una pausa que haga cada uno de los ponentes, va a estar haciendo una recopilación, una traducción, un resumen rápidamente de la intervención que hubiera hecho ese panelista. Entonces, los dejo con la moderación de Carolina Durán y con la colaboración, los conocimientos, todo lo bueno que nos trae Vibe Lab con el futuro de esas pistas de baile y las ciudades 24 horas, the future of dance floors and 24-hour cities in the world. Thank you very much, guys.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Carolina.
Gracias, Camilo. Thank you very much, Camilo. Greetings to everyone. I am going to go briefly through the bios of each of the very special people who are with us at this panel at this time. I'm going to start with Lutz. Lutz, you are part of the Berlin-based talent recruiting event company Young Targets, and you have been advocacy for Vibe Lab. You've been a spokesman, executive board member of the club commission. Basically, you are the fire behind the nightlife in Berlin. So thank you very much for being here, because you have added not only expertise, youth, energy, but also knowledge to what the Berlin nightlife is today.
And, thank you for being.
You are.
Carolina, your signal is not quite good.
To think about a city 24 hours is key and innovative. So, hello, Lutz. Welcome, Lutz. I don't know if you want to say something brief about yourself.
Yeah, I think your connection was not all the time good. So I'm happy to be here. As you mentioned, I'm very active in the Berlin scene for more than 10 years. I'm the spokesman of the advocacy group Berlin Club Commission, and together with Mirik Milan, the former night mayor of Amsterdam, I'm the co-founder of Vibe Lab, and we're a purpose-driven consultancy that is doing research and advocacy in nighttime economy, nighttime culture, nighttime communities all over the world. And for us, Latin America, especially Bogota, is probably one of the most important cities when we talk about a vibrant culture, a vibrant nightlife. And in this crisis, or also after this crisis, we are really interested that all the informations, all the knowledge that we gathered in our global nighttime recovery plan, we can also give access to decision makers in Colombia, and hopefully we can, get out of this crisis even stronger.
So Lutz what he's saying connects very well with Diana Raicelis, which I want to introduce right now. You can just correct me in how to pronounce your last name. Diana, But Diana is an expert in connecting cities with the nightlife, especially sustainable cities, as we are all in the endeavor and venture of being able to create cities that are sustainable and meet the SDG goals. She also is keen about collaboration between public, private, and civil society, which we know as a fact that is part of what really is moving us forward in pandemic. Diana has also been the editor of Global Nighttime Recovery Plan and the founding member of the Los Angeles Nightlife Alliance. So welcome, Diana. Please just tell me how to pronounce your last name correctly for the audience, and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you to Camilo. Thank you to Asobares. Thank you to Carolina and Alejandra as well. My name's Diana Razelis. I accept just about any pronunciation. But I am delighted to be here based in Berlin and speaking to you today as an Alexander von Humboldt Foundation Research Fellow in residence with Berlin Club Commission and Vibe Lab. And as Carolina mentioned, I'm originally from the US. I was working in theater in Chicago as a director and producer and helping to found the Los Angeles Nightlife Alliance. And so delighted to be in conversation here today and learning from global models of the GNRP and from Bogota.
Thank you very much, Diana. I didn't know you had that connection with Bogota right now, and I'm grateful to hear that. I want to introduce Dr. Sifo Sistole. He's a musician and award-winning music producer. Is that correct, Sifo? You have a lot of trajectory, but what I really think is interesting is how we connect music, the capacity of connecting music to entrepreneurship and to all the data that is behind the coding. One of the things I've learned from my experience in entrepreneurship and innovation is that music and math go very well together. And the best coders are those who also play instruments or are musicians. So welcome, Dr. Sifo. Tell me a little bit about yourself and how music has connected you in life with everything you've done in purpose in your life.
Okay, thank you, Carolina. Yes, my name is Dr. Sifo Sithole. I'm a research fellow at the University of Johannesburg, where I'm looking at culture and society, music and society. But by profession, I'm a strategist. I've been in corporate all my life. I found music out of passion, and that is where I have really earned my stripes as a music producer, as a cultural practitioner, and I've been writing on music. I am not a musician. I can't read music. I can't play instruments, but I am one of the leading composers in South Africa and leading producers. And I sing what I hear, and then I get the guys in studio to program the sounds as I play it, if it's a guitar or bass or keys. And then I just put the music, and then after that we record it live. So, and I like it that way, that I'm not trained musically, because if I was, I think I'll take it too serious and become more classical in how I do things. And but I'm also involved. I think I must thank Diana, because she's the first person to have invited me to participate in the Global Night Life Recovery. And I'm also one of the contributors on Chapter 5 on the nightlife economy, which is going to be coming out very soon. I've just seen Michael, who's the coordinator, together with Tara, sending us notes that we are almost there with that chapter. And so I'm really happy to be part of this and to continue to discuss what we've been doing in South Africa to lessen the burden during COVID, and my own personal experience in the work that I've done in the virtual concerts, of over 30 concerts I've done since the lockdown. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Sifo.
Okay. Thank you very much, Dr. Sifo. So all of you are innovators. Innovation means creating something new and solving problems in a collaborative manner. and reaching common objectives. Everyone and each one of you have and are living in different countries. But from where you are, we all have a common goal. And one basically is obviously reactivating the economy and understanding this pandemic in this brave new world somehow. But also we have hello. But we are also part of this community on a humanity that will lead us to what's next in this nightlife. So I want to ask you one question. From where you stand and from what you're doing, and I'm going to go starting with Lutz, how are you innovating? How are you innovating in nightlife arena? Lutz, we can't hear you. You're muted.
Okay, thanks for the. I think what we learned in this crisis is that that advocacy and community-based work is so essential because a crisis in that scale you cannot regulate from top down and hope that the government is doing everything correct. You need to have a society supporting everything what needs to be done. And in nightlife at the moment, or in the last 5 or 8 years, we have a trend that there are night mayors and club commission being established. And that is, and you can see that in cities that have this kind of role, a mediator between decision makers on one side and the creative community on the other side, that they are more resilient than other cities. And the way of how we innovate is that we use that potential and create projects and concepts that are bringing value by collaborating and by working together. So one of the project that we actually launched right after the lockdown in Berlin in the mid of March was a streaming platform that is called United We Stream, and it developed into 98 cities all over the world. And this helps to show presence as a community, to show empty stages, artists with no audience, and also the ability to reach out to your community and ask them for donations. So
maybe we can, Alejandra, you can translate, because I know I have to give you space for translation booths. So let Alexandra translate what we've done until now, briefly introduced everyone.
Thank you very much, Madam Secretary. Bueno, empezamos la sesión con la presentación de la secretaria a cada uno de los panelistas, una breve introducción de cada uno. Lutz está feliz de estar aquí con nosotros, es el segundo del grupo y junto con Mirik Milan fundaron Bailab, es una consultoría
Alejandra,
privada.
can you hear me? So you can please translate.
Can everybody hear me?
Yes,
we hear you.
We can hear you.
Okay. I think I think Secretary is having a little bit of connection issues. Continúo. Una consultoría privada, Bailab es una consultoría privada de políticas para vida nocturna, y Bogotá es clave para la vida nocturna después de esta pandemia, y lo que más le llama la atención a Lutz es poder contribuir y aplicar políticas para fortalecer la vida nocturna en la ciudad. Diana Rice-Ellis, muchísimas gracias por estar acá, gracias a todos por invitarme. Está encantada de estar acá, es originaria de los Estados Unidos, trabajó en UNFIR para fundar la Alianza de Vida Nocturna y para compartir y aprender los principales actores de la vida nocturna. Está muy feliz de estar acá y ser parte de este panel. Continúo con el Dr. Seifold, descubrió la música por pasión y ha estado descubriendo música, es un productor líder y tiene la música, tiene mucho tiempo trabajando en esto. Lo que hace es presentar la música a su equipo y que ellos traduzcan esto ya en resultados finales, lo que le gusta. También está involucrado, Diana fue la primera persona que lo invitó a participar en la vida nocturna y lo invita a participar en todo este proyecto. Está muy feliz de estar aquí y lo considero una gran experiencia personal. Continuamos con la pregunta de la Secretaria de Desarrollo Económico a Lutz, que es ¿cómo cree que se han innovado cuáles son las medidas que se han tomado para innovar la vida nocturna y cuáles son las medidas que se tomaron específicamente durante la pandemia. Lutz comienza por decirnos que cree que las cosas que más aprendieron en esta crisis es que la defensa y el trabajo comunitario es esencial. No se puede regular de arriba a abajo. Se necesita que la sociedad apoye a lo que sucede en la vida nocturna. Pues así se pueden ver las ciudades más desarrolladas y es necesario tener un mediador que puede ser un mediador entre la comunidad y el gobierno para que las ciudades sean más resilientes y más resistentes. Innovamos creyendo conceptos y proyectos que aportan valor al colaborar y trabajar más estrechamente. Una de las cosas que han hecho durante la cuarentena es ayudar a la comunidad para pedirles donaciones a través de la plataforma que desarrollaron.
Perfecto, Alejandra, gracias. So, Lutz, you're finalizing your idea before we went into translation. I don't know if you want to conclude with something, and we can just ask the same question to Diana. How are you innovating in the nightlife arena in pandemic? So I don't know, Lutz, do you want to conclude something, or we just have Diana?
I may just conclude by bringing knowledge that is developed all over the world. We can. Okay. I think by working globally together in this crisis and having people that are responsive and mediators in governments, but between governments and creative communities is so essential in overcoming this crisis. So I think that is the way how we innovate at the moment to create a catalyst such as the Global Nighttime Recovery Plan. That is a project that is run by more than 130 people, and probably Diana will talk a bit more about what we're doing there.
Lutz.
Yes. Alejandra, do you want to jump in, or should I go ahead?
Oh, thank you, Diana. Para finalizar la idea de cómo se está innovando y creando nuevas iniciativas durante la cuarentena, Lutz responde que cree que trabajando globalmente conjuntos durante esta crisis y teniendo un mediador entre el gobierno y las comunidades para superar esta crisis, para así crear catalizadores para el plan de recuperación que está dirigido por más de 130 personas, y Diana seguramente nos profundizará en este tema. Gracias.
Perfecto, Alejandra, y creo que una palabra clave es conocimiento. I really like the word knowledge. I like the way that you express the importance of understanding what the nightlife looks like, and you cannot regulate from the desk. You need to go out and see what's happening. So that connecting communities, obviously, to those who regulate is key, and that's the role of what we call in Colombia the chambers of commerce or the guilds. That's how we work. That's why this is so important in this moment in time, and the way we've worked collaborative. So Diana, what is your take on this?
Yes, so I come to this work with a perspective from community development devised by some scholars in Chicago. That's ABCD, asset-based community development, because as Lutz mentioned, the nightlife actors, creators, workers are incredibly resilient, resourceful, and good at responding to immediate and unexpected changes. That's what we have to do. And so to me, it's not necessarily about my innovation, it's about facilitating all of the innovations and all of the problem solving that was happening and has been happening over this past year all over the world. And so what the Global Nighttime Recovery Plan really aims to do is to connect those different kinds of practices, those different small innovations and pilots and efforts that are taking place, so that people can bring together their expertise and hopefully replicate those ideas around the world. Because every context is different, but we're facing so many similar challenges. And I think a really big piece of this puzzle is people not having to reinvent the wheel, as it were. And so drawing upon our assets collectively as a global community, as local places, and bringing those together is, I think, a really important part of the process.
Fantastic, Diane. I really relate to that on building upon what's built and just growing that and scaling it, understanding the different types of practices and replicate it. I think that's interesting and powerful because we don't need to reinvent the wheel. We just need to observe and connect, which is what I hear from what you're doing. So Alejandra, you can go ahead and translate.
Gracias. La secretaria empieza diciendo que la palabra clave es conocimiento, porque es muy importante salir y ver lo que está sucediendo, y para eso tenemos varias entidades aquí en Colombia, como la Cámara de Comercio y el Consejo. Diana dice que viene con este trabajo con una perspectiva desarrollando un trabajo comunitario basado en la seguridad, en actores, en los trabajadores y en los recursos que, como decía Lutz, son personas muy recursivas y muy resistentes y de quien depende toda la vida nocturna. Cree que no se trata de su innovación personal, sino de facilitar todas las innovaciones para fortalecer todos estos trabajadores y todas estas entidades. El plan de reactivación tiene como objetivo conectar estos temas y hacer que la gente cree políticas basadas en estos retos similares. No se trata de reinventar la rueda, sino de reunir todas estas experiencias que han pasado en los diferentes países durante esta crisis y ver cómo se conectan todas estas experiencias para aprender de ellas y generar nuevas políticas.
Y quizás sumarle a la palabra gremios, Alejandra, importante la conexión con los gremios. Colombia se ha fortalecido en sus gremios, Asobares es un gran ejemplo de eso, cómo los gremios hacen precisamente un eslabón entre la comunidad y el gobierno. Y yo creo que, Diana, me quedo con el método de observar, reunir y escalar. Es un método que ella usa y que creo que es poderoso en este momento. So, Saifo, with Dr. Saifo, we've spoken to Diana about observing, understanding and scaling, connecting and not reinventing the weak, whereas understanding what's going on and kind of taking those different types of practices replicable at a global scale. What is your take on innovation in this pandemic world?
Diane has actually touched on very crucial points about just the cultural workers and how resilient and resourceful they can be in responding to challenges. And I just made notes before she even mentioned that, to say that creative people will always find ways to reimagine new possibilities when they suddenly encounter the unexpected, because they are creative by nature. And we've seen that as a matter of fact, it got people out of their discomfort, to say we may have taken things for granted. We may have thought that the world was always physical contact, but we actually forgot that the fourth industrial revolution and the digitalization was actually here. And they sort of just tapped on what was already there, which they may have taken for granted. I mean, we saw around the world these virtual platforms suddenly just emerging, and people being able to connect with their fans virtually with the attitude that says the show must go on, the DJ must play, the dancer must dance, the poet must recite the poem, the comedian must make us laugh, whether you are in the hall, you are not in the hall, as long as there is a platform that is virtual. So, for instance, in South Africa, we saw DJ lockdown parties that were happening virtually. Suddenly, people just say, we are playing and just watch us. And we saw the hip hop ciphers doing lockdown and just competing and dropping 16 bars and sending them all over. And it just shows that there is a space for everything. So we are now approaching what I think is a hybrid cultural and creative industry that will always be both physical and as well as virtual. Because now it means that someone in Medellin who could not come to New York to see an act can now see the same acts performing in New York virtually. And for me, what it means is that the creators must always create for two platforms. They must create for both the virtual as well as the physical, because now the distance is shortened, is no longer there. We can see it. I did a show for 5 times Grammy Award winning Ladysmith Black Mambazo. Probably some of you know it. It's an a cappella group. I did it in Durban at a theater with no audiences, and we told the Australians, the Americans, the Europeans to say, Mambazo is inviting you to their concert. You don't have to get on the aeroplane, come see them, but they will come to you in your lounge. So that is what is happening. The resilience and the resourcefulness of the creative or of the cultural practitioners in responding to new challenges, as Diane was saying.
Great. So I have the words, the magic words for all of you. So for Dr. Saifo Sistole, it's resilience and resourcefulness, which is very powerful. For Diana, we are connecting, observing, connecting, and scaling. And for Lutz, you are knowledge-based action. So I am going to, as this panel has 3 main topics, we are going to cover those one by one. You, Lutz, I'm going to let Alejandra translate, okay? So let's not get ahead of ourselves. And then I'm continuing with you, Lutz. And we're going to talk to you about open air nightlife. How does that look like in Berlin, given that you have very, very harsh weather conditions at points? Sometimes you have winter. How is that open air nightlife possible in this COVID-19 pandemic? And please, Alejandra, go ahead and translate before Lutz answers.
Thank you very much. Hablemos con Diana sobre... Perdón. Hablamos con Diana sobre la conexión y el no reinventar la rueda, ¿no? ¿Cuál es su salida en esta medida? ¿Cuál es lo que usted se lleva? ¿Cuál es su impresión de la innovación? Pregunta de la Secretaria de Desarrollo al doctor Sifu. La respuesta del doctor Sifu. Diana ha tocado puntos cruciales sobre los trabajadores y cómo son resistentes a los cambios. La gente creativa siempre encuentra maneras de enfrentar los cambios y crear nuevas posibilidades. Puede que hayamos dado por sentado que todo era contacto y personal, pero ya tenemos esta revolución industrial que lleva con nosotros desde hace mucho tiempo. Vinimos a recrear plataformas virtuales y renacer plataformas virtuales y gente conectándose con sus seres queridos. El DJ debe seguir tocando, el comediante debe seguir haciéndonos reír, siempre y cuando haya una plataforma que permita que estos espacios sean presentados. En África vimos esto durante la cuarentena, con competencias, lo que significa que hay un espacio para todo. Alguien en Medellín ya puede, no necesariamente tiene que venir a Nueva York para ver un evento o un concierto, ahora puede verlo y tener esta experiencia desde la comodidad de su casa. Los creadores deben prepararse para ambas plataformas, sobre todo después de esta crisis. Él trabaja con un grupo de a cappella y decidieron durante toda esta crisis invitar al mundo a asistir a los eventos sin necesidad de pararse del sofá de su casa. Entonces, él considera que lo más importante es la reinvención de todas estas plataformas. La secretaria concluye con las palabras que ella menciona como mágicas: la resistencia, ser recursivos y el conocimiento. Y ahora vamos a continuar con cada capítulo.
La resiliencia, Aleja, me parece importante en esto. Entonces, sí, le estaba diciendo que el doctor Sifu habla de la resiliencia y ser recursivos. En Colombia sabemos ser recursivos. La señora Diana Raicelis habla sobre la innovación, la observación, la conectividad. Y obviamente, Lutz, cómo el conocimiento local ayuda a generar la política pública que se requiere. Entonces, vuelvo a Lutz. I'm returning to Lutz. And Lutz, how is the open air life in Berlin? We in Colombia and Bogota started for the first time in, I think, history, using the open air for different economic reactivation initiatives, being able to dine to eat outdoors was impossible. Being able to have artisans, arts crafts selling outdoors was impossible. Being able to drink alcohol outdoors with food was impossible. And now, given the pandemic, we had to look into those impossibles and make it possible by using what we say in Spanish, urbanismo táctico, which is basically paint, and designing a new city with paint on where we want to stand, where we want to dance, where we want to eat, and being able to give a logic to the city through colors, through light, and through, as I was saying, paint. And that's how we have been recovering a public space for free, in order to reactivate certain economic sectors. How is that in Berlin? Tell us a little bit about that.
Yes, I would like to talk a bit about this free open air initiative that we started already 5 or 6 years ago. And it was because there is a phenomenon that young people use social media to gather together without any license, going to parks, going into the public space and gather. And these gatherings are actually something very beautiful, because you use parks differently than just doing their sports or just for leisure. It was about creating a community, because usually the people who are doing these kind of pop-up spontaneous events are unknown artists. They just wanted to create something, bringing their audience together and build up a reputation. But of course, it's not legal. And in Germany, just to do an event without having a license is a problem. And so as a club commission, we try to negotiate between the interest of these more independent and self-organized individuals, and then also of course, how can we reduce noise and litter in a city by having these kind of events. So that project started very early, and it was a blessing during the crisis, because we had done already a lot of work. Because what happened when all the bars and restaurants had to shut down during the lockdown, a lot of people went to the outdoors, used public space, and we were actually prepared to have this dialogue with the police enforcement, and also with the different districts, the governments, how to respond to this. So I must say, in the summertime, there is a big open air culture in Berlin. Everybody wants to go outside. I had friends from Latin America coming, visiting, and they wanted to go indoor when there was sun shining. We said, no, in Berlin, you stay outdoors. It's when the sun is shining, everybody's outdoors. So that is something that is part of the society, but it's also, it needs to have kind of a regulation. Otherwise, young people just do it. And then you have a lot of mess, litter, noise, and complaints. And this was a process that we called planned chaos, because we didn't want to make it too strict, planned, and licensed. We wanted to keep it still very fluid, but on the same time, we had to have communication. And you mentioned before the Chamber of Commerce that is playing a big role in Bogota. Here also in Berlin, I'm a member of the Committee for Creative Industries in the Chamber of Commerce, and we use that platform to bring young people together with people from the authorities and exchange knowledge, how they can create their events spontaneously, but without any troubles and the downside, basically, of doing it without the whole licensing process. So to conclude, free open air, using open air space has a long history in Berlin, but it's also very complicated because it's very regulated, maybe even over-regulated, and we needed to break this down to the max that we have it more fluid and accessible for young people.
Thank you. So basically, what we've done in Bogota is we have used the pilots to try out everything. We have no regulation right now, or there's a lot of regulation that says we cannot do what we're doing. So what we did in pandemic is used an exception to the rule given the pandemic and pilot things. Everything has worked until now, knock on wood. Now we need to bring that into regulation so we can make it permanent. That's something we're working on. It's going to be a challenge. So I'm going to call you and help us think policy through that, and how in Berlin you've done it, but we don't want to overdo it either. We don't want to go to the other side. Okay, Aleja, do you want to translate? And then we'll go to Diana. And I'm going to connect this to the second block of this conversation.
Thank you. Ok. Lutz, ¿cómo es la vida nocturna abierta o cómo es cómo ha sido este paso de tener estos espacios abiertos? Porque en Bogotá por primera vez podemos en este momento comer al aire libre, tomar bebidas alcohólicas al aire libre, tener artesanos y comercio al aire libre. Después de la pandemia, Bogotá ha tenido que abrir nuevas posibilidades y queremos hacerlo de diferentes maneras. Nos gustaría saber cómo en Berlín se ha manejado esto. Lutz responde, me gustaría hablar sobre el plan que comenzamos hace 5 o 6 años con los medios con estos medios de comunicación y de trabajo conjunto. Estas reuniones son muy populares y crean comunidad, trabajo conjunto, gente que hace eventos de la nada, espontáneos, donde se pueden reunir audiencias, y para que estos eventos le permitan a estos grupos ser conocidos, son muy populares en Berlín, pero esto es ilegal. Entonces, la pregunta que ellos se hicieron es cómo pueden abordar los problemas de basura, de ruido, de desorden público. Él menciona que en verano en Berlín esta es una práctica muy común, que toda esta cultura y todos estos eventos se hacen al aire libre, pero uno de los problemas que más se enfrentan es la basura y el ruido. Para esto ellos planearon o crearon el Plan Caos, denominado Plan Caos, para hacer una transición fluida dentro de todos estos espacios, ya teniéndolos regulados para evitar este tipo de inconvenientes. Resalta que se menciona el trabajo con la Cámara de Comercio en Bogotá como un jugador clave para fortalecer y crear todas estas nuevas políticas y estas regulaciones. Él menciona que es miembro en Berlín de esta cámara y que la idea de ellos es ayudar a estos grupos, crear estos eventos de manera segura, manteniendo obviamente orden en el espacio público y que esto debe ser obviamente muy regulado. La secretaria continúa diciendo que aquí en Bogotá se ha hecho por medio de pilotos donde se han descubierto estos espacios y estas nuevas regulaciones.
Gracias, Alejandra. Y pues, para dar paso a lo que significaría el futuro no solamente de las pistas de baile y de la actividad nocturna, también de un cielo abierto en Bogotá. I want to speak right now to Diana about the future of the dance floors in a country like Colombia, where we really love to dance and we connect dancing, holding hands and dancing close together, thinking about an open air nightlife and the future and building a more flexible and open and innovative clubbing experience. From what you've seen in the world, from the examples that you gathered, what is in that crystal ball for us?
Thank you. I think that it's hard to predict, of course, that what we saw and predicted maybe back in March or April is, of course, no one could know where we would be right now. And it's hard to say where exactly we'll be in 6 months. But I think a couple of positive conversations that are going on out of this crisis is discussion about valuing of local scenes and artists, thinking about flexible usage of 24-hour spaces, and maybe, as Sifo mentioned, also incorporating digital for inclusivity and accessibility. So to think through those 3 pieces, something that we often talk about in environmental sustainability of music and culture is also how much we're flying artists in. And so this has been an opportunity to talk and think about how can we invest in our local scenes through 0-kilometer residencies, as chapter 2 of the GNRP references, and really deeply valuing the sort of, in the same way we think about slow food, also thinking about slow culture, and really creating vibrant, local, like deeply connected scenes. I think also something that has been really exciting to me has been cities and municipalities that have been finding ways to address the restrictions on using spaces for 24-hour use in all different kinds of ways. So very recently, Sydney, Australia, and its state New South Wales actually passed a number of reforms to allow events to take place in non-traditional spaces, which is really, really exciting. And then finally, I miss dancing. I miss being in a crowd of people. I miss that embodied feeling. But I also recognize that for some people who for geographical reasons, for reasons of disability or accessibility, can't always get there. And so for them, virtual events and live streaming make things possible that wouldn't be otherwise, and all manner of collaboration. And so I am hopeful that when we get to gather again, we can keep the best of the practices that we've been coming up with in these last 9 months, and bring those into our new normal, whatever that may be.
I agree, Diana. I am also looking forward to some of the things that we've learned through the pandemic, some of the new habits, some of the new ways that we've kind of envisioned and piloted through the pandemic should stay, are here to stay. And maybe this nightlife and the dance floors, more inclusive dance floors, are one of those things, and that we should never go back to being completely dance floors as we knew them, closed spaces for just a few who could go and dance. This should be much more of open. I love the concept of the slow kilometer art scenes, slow food, slow cultures. I also think it's important to find a way to address restrictions and live spaces in a non-traditional manner, especially non-traditional hours. So that also connects to the question I want to ask Dr. Saifo about, and it connects with your word, resilience. Do you think we are ready for those cities that are 24 hours, which means not only bringing extended hours for shopping and for groceries and for going to the bank, but also how do we bring the nightlife to a day life? How do we change that to a new normal? Understanding that we also need to prevent from agglomerations, from having people close by together in closed spaces, and giving and using productive assets of the city throughout the whole 24 hours, day and night, should be something we should look towards to in terms of productivity, and competitivity. So before we go to your answer, please, Aleja, go ahead and translate.
Thank you very much. Aquí en Colombia, la secretaria, perdón, empieza con una introducción antes de la pregunta de Diana. Aquí en Colombia nos encanta bailar y el contacto, nos conectamos cogiéndonos de la mano, bailando y con este contacto físico, ¿cierto? De lo que ustedes han visto en el mundo, ¿cómo sería esa proyección de bolita de cristal para Colombia? Diana responde, gracias, creo que es difícil de predecir, nadie sabría que en marzo, febrero empezaría toda esta pandemia, entonces es difícil saber qué va a pasar en el futuro. Creo que es importante tener una conversación positiva, apoyando a los artistas locales incluyendo accesibilidad y haciendo todos estos eventos más inclusivos. A menudo hablamos de cuánto podemos invertir en artistas exteriores, cómo los podemos traer, pero creo que es más importante pensarlo como un término que usa en inglés soul food o soul events, que serían estos, así como nosotros apoyamos la comida local, deberíamos también apoyar estos grupos y estos artistas locales, ¿cierto? También ella menciona que también extraña el contacto, pero que a través de toda esta crisis se ha dado cuenta que también hay muchísimas personas que incluso en situaciones normales no pueden tener este contacto por discapacidades. Entonces, cree que estas plataformas que se están generando en este momento hacen que nos volvamos muchísimo más inclusivos para que todas estas personas puedan tener acceso a los diferentes eventos y espacios que tenemos. Dice que está de acuerdo y espera que con el interés de las nuevas formas y hábitos que tenemos para la visión del futuro, tener pistas de baile y eventos nocturnos muchísimo más incluyentes y sin restricciones. Cree que es importante manejar los espacios de manera creativa. La secretaria continúa preguntando, ¿estamos listos para ciudades de 24 horas que van más allá de compras, de poder salir a comprar alimentos, abastecerse durante la noche y más bien tener, ya estar preparados para una ciudad que conecte la vida nocturna con la vida en el día?
Gracias, Alejandra. Así es, ¿cómo conectamos la vida nocturna con la vida diurna? No solamente tenemos los horarios comerciales, sino cómo hacemos para ser productivos, pero también vivimos la cultura de la danza, de la noche en el día. And my question goes to Dr. Saifo. So, Dr. Saifo, how are we really innovating 24-hour cities, taking into account the importance of the resilience and resourcefulness in pandemic.
So, Madam Secretary, let me tell you something. The night has always been there, and nightlife was always there. We just took it for granted that it was there until the night fell. Then we suddenly realized that, oh, we no longer have nightlife anymore. Because when it was there, the day and night was always seamless. You know, people moved from the day, those that went home, and they finished their daytime economy. And those that ran the nighttime economy, ran the nighttime economy. We just never recognized that they were there because it was just there until it was taken away from us by COVID. I want to read for you a few paragraphs that I've written in this chapter, which is the chapter 5 for the Global Nightlife Recovery Plan. And my contribution on that chapter is titled "When the Night Fell." And then I say that South Africa has always had a vibrant nightlife at all the major cities, ranging from hipster bars, dancing clubs to historic pubs and bar districts, as well as restaurants. It was always there. And for a good 26 years since our democracy, nightlife belonged to everyone, regardless of their color or creed. But when COVID-19 struck, the night disappeared. And a new curfew reared its ugly head again. And this time it was not a racial curfew of the apartheid era that we know in South Africa, but it was a COVID-19 lockdown with a clear message that says, stay at home. And suddenly, the night revelers had to contend with the reality of a human tragedy that did not discriminate between the privileged and the marginalized, and definitely not between whites and blacks. And that before the night fell to COVID-19 lockdown, clubs were spread throughout the metropolis with the nightpreneurs. I call them the nightpreneurs. These are now the economic players that made the night vibrant, whether it was from your food vendors and those who sold you cigarette loose outside the clubs, those who sold you small eats when you are hungry, you've been dancing throughout the night, and because people could not return home. And when that suddenly disappeared, you then realize the value of those players at night that always provided a vibrance in the night. In the night, even the homeless, they turned parking guards at night. They took ownership of every parking space left open by the daytime motorist for a small fee to guarantee for their car's safety at night. So the night fell and the night disappeared, except for just light and dark. And only then we realized how valuable this night was, because we could still go out. But it has always been 24-hour cities. You know, of course, not having nightmares like you have in Berlin or elsewhere, and not having a night economy in the manner that I've heard people talking about. And when the night fell, that's when we realized how important the night was. I think that's my poetic answer to you, Madam Secretary.
Thank you, Sifo. And I really find it poetic and true. We valued nightlife, but we also took it for granted. However, given that Colombia had been and has been a country that was in war for 50 years, nightlife was not easy. And we were very shy and timid to go out. In certain cities, not Bogota, but like Cali, Medellin, there were cities that we could not go out. And not because the government or the curfew, it was just because it was not safe. So one of the biggest values that I think we've gained in pandemic is called liberty and freedom. We regained the knowledge of liberty and freedom, and we regained the value of liberty and freedom because we had kind of taken it for granted. My generation, I'm 43 years old, so I've lived in a war kind of situation in the country. So understanding now that we had gained liberty and freedom, we had gained security, we had gained nightlife, and that suddenly was taken away was really shocking, I guess, at first as well. And I never really thought through it that way. So thank you very much for that. I think that now once we go back to nightlife. Once the pandemic, we have the vaccine or whatever, I think we're going to all treasure it much more. Right now, we're doing a 24-hour pilot, and we do need to regulate on it because we would not be able to open certain spaces at night. We were very, because of security issues, we were very limited in our hours in the evening. And one of the things that pandemic brought right now was the possibility of using it throughout more hours of the day and the night. So I think that's something that we have also gained through this experience. So Aleja, you want to translate? And then we've been 1 hour transmission, so I'm going to close with one question to all of you. And you have to play by the rules, and which is you have to answer with one word. Okay? So you can think of that word, and that word is a present, a Christmas present, if you will, that you're going to give to us in Bogota and as a message. And obviously it can be used a word that we treasure as Colombians, but basically for Bogota, for what we're living in Bogota now. One word that you would give us as a present. And go ahead, Alejan, translate.
Thank you so much. Dr. Sifo, ¿cómo podemos tener ciudades 24 horas teniendo en cuenta toda esta resiliencia que se encuentra en estos grupos que ya hemos mencionado? La noche siempre ha estado aquí, menciona el Dr. Sifu. La vida nocturna siempre ha estado ahí, solo que la hemos dado por sentada, nos hemos olvidado de lo valiosa que es. La gente que trabaja de noche también ha sido tomada por sorpresa y también la hemos tomado por sentada. Él menciona su contribución al capítulo 5 del plan de reactivación que se llama Cuando la noche cayó. En Sudáfrica menciona que en Sudáfrica siempre ha tenido una vida nocturna muy vibrante, llena de baile, colores, danzas, bares, restaurantes, y que la vida nocturna siempre le ha pertenecido a toda la población independientemente de su credo, su color o su estado económico. Cuando el COVID-19 llega, la vida nocturna desaparece, y no por una limitación racial ni económica, sino por una pandemia que nos dice que nos debemos quedar en casa. Y esta pandemia no marca o no tiene diferencia entre, nuevamente, color, estatus económico, en que se desempeña la persona. Todos debimos permanecer en casa. Cuando la vida nocturna se desvaneció, los negocios también se desaparecieron. Las personas que trabajaban por fuera de los clubes dando comida, vendiendo dulces, vendiendo comida para estas personas de la noche también desaparecieron. Y lo que sucede es que las personas desamparadas se apoderaron de la noche. La noche solo quedó la oscuridad y pocos destellos de luz, y sin alcaldes nocturnos y sin una economía nocturna fuerte, pues esto aumenta la crisis. Él menciona que es su manera más poética de responder la pregunta, la noche desapareció.
That was a perfect translation, Alejandra. Perfect.
Thank you very much. La secretaria continúa mencionando que en Colombia venimos de muchos años de guerra, y esto hace que nosotros seamos tímidos y temerosos para salir en la noche, no por el gobierno, sino simplemente porque no es seguro en muchos lugares del país. Hemos recuperado la libertad y hemos tenido que ir ganando esa libertad que se nos había quitado. Una vez regresemos seremos mejores, más incluyentes, y esta limitación que antes teníamos en horarios aquí en Bogotá durante la noche, pues la pandemia trae una nueva oportunidad para extender estos horarios. La última pregunta con la que vamos a terminar, o con la que la señora secretaria va a dar finalización al panel, es una palabra para cada uno de los panelistas, una palabra que sea un regalo para Bogotá, de cuál sería su consejo para Bogotá durante toda esta reactivación, solo con una palabra. Secretaria.
Thank you. The microphone muted. Ya. Aleja, gracias por la traducción y por todo lo que has hecho. Creo que impecable. And Lutz, the floor is yours. The dancing floor. Give me one word for Bogotá.
What I wish is cohesion. I think it's very important that societies stay together in this crisis and don't get divided. So unity and cohesion is the one that I wish and give you as a present for Christmas.
Ale, traduces al final si quieres, ¿vale? Diana,
Claro que sí.
Diana, what is your word? Your present for us.
Solidaridad. Just to know that as you are embarking on 24-hour city planning, there are other cities all over the world, other practitioners also doing the same, and also who want to learn from you. So we're in it together.
I received that present gratefully, and I'm going to call you after this. We really need that solidarity. You already marked the path, and now we just need to follow. So thank you very much for that present. Dr. Seifel, your present for us.
Reimagine. That's my word. Reimagine new possibilities.
Reimagine new possibilities. That's fantastic. Thank you very much for that. Taking my cohesion, my solidarity, and my reimagination to put, and we're going to put it at work, because Bogota will become a city that lives 24 hours a day without fear, with a lot of great nightlife, but also with a lot of productivity during the day. So thank you very much to all of you. Aleja, gracias. Camilo, gracias. Go ahead and translate, and we can just close our panel today.
Thank you. El regalo de Lutz es cohesión. La sociedad debe permanecer unida y trabajar juntos, y este es el regalo de Lutz de Navidad para Bogotá. El regalo de Diana es solidaridad. El embarcarse en un plan de una ciudad de 24 horas requiere aprender de otras ciudades y de otros países que están en este mismo camino, y estamos juntos en esto y debemos aprender los unos de los otros. Dr. Sifo termina con la palabra reimaginar. Esa es su palabra, reimaginar nuevas posibilidades. La secretaria termina agradeciendo por cada palabra y por cada regalo de cada uno de los panelistas, y todos estos regalos serán llevados al trabajo de fortalecer esta ciudad como 24 horas.
Gracias, Aleja. Perfecta producción, como dice Dr. Sifo. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
God bless you, and Camilo, thank you for all you've done, and Asobaris as well. We could not have made it up to here without you guys. Impossible to do this alone. So thank you very much, and I guess we're done for today.
Yes, thank you very much, everybody. It's my pleasure. It's been my pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you all.
Somos una ciudad que cree en los imposibles y que sabe lo que es llegar lejos, porque siempre hemos estado a 2.600 metros más cerca de las estrellas. Sabemos que si hace sol, va a llover, y que si está lloviendo, más tarde hace un lindo atardecer. Por eso, adaptarnos al cambio hace parte de nuestro día a día. Bogotá es la ciudad que se transforma y que transforma millones de vidas. La ciudad donde soñar es posible y donde cada mañana es un nuevo reto. Hoy afrontamos el reto más grande que hemos tenido, y por eso ahora, más que nunca, tenemos que seguir soñando. Ha llegado el momento de volver a estar juntos y de abrir nuestras puertas para recibirte nuevamente en esta, tu casa. Es hora de construir este nuevo inicio, de seguir y lograr grandes cambios, de transformar los límites que nos distancian y trabajar duro en Bogotá. Dejaremos lo mejor en cada paso, en cada acción, porque es momento de respirar la ciudad que nos hace vibrar y demostrar que la esperanza, al igual que el cielo, no tiene límites. Bogotá, a cielo abierto.